Welcome to AstroEnergy with astrologer angel Shelley Overton. Hello and welcome to the May 1st, 2018 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida. And if you called in half an hour ago, I apologize. But the show is about Mercury. Bless Mercury, because Mercury always manages to have a say in my Mercury shows one way or the other. And so we will talk a little bit about that today. I am grateful that I'm able to be here with you talking about Mercury, talking about the planets. And I'm a little stressed only because right as my show is about to begin, my computer wouldn't work. It basically started cycling through all of the apps I had open, and then it started flickering and opening up apps I didn't open, which very much concerned me since, of course, there are viruses out there and there are people who can get into your computer. And I'm not saying somebody isn't in my computer already, but right before the show started, all this happened, and I was already logged in for my show, ready to go with my call-in. And lo and behold, when I rebooted my computer and tried to call in, it wouldn't let me in because I'd already called in. And there was no button to hang up and call back in. And if you hang up, then it cuts your show dead. So there was just really no way to get back in. So I had to end that show. Now, that being said, there are a lot of aspects going on, and one of them happened to be before the show started. It was the end degrees of the moon in Scorpio, and of course we had a full moon in Scorpio yesterday, and so having the moon in Scorpio at 29 degrees as my show's beginning was not a good idea. I probably should have planned for that show to be at 11:30, which is what I went in and redid. I basically started it again and scheduled it for 11:30. The moon is now in Sagittarius. It's at 0 degrees and 6 minutes Sagittarius. And so we shall see. We shall see if it's going to work out and we're going to be able to get through the show. I've reinitiated. I've posted to all the usual sites, and I think I may end up just redoing it again here to make sure people know. And right now I have no one in the queue, not surprising, because poor people who listen don't know I'm on the air again after that whole debacle. But it just kind of illustrates really clearly what's going on in the atmosphere and how you can use astrology to your benefit, or in this case detriment, I would suppose. So I'm just kind of getting calmed down after all of that, getting back up, because the thing is, when you are expecting to talk to people and there are people waiting in a queue to talk to you and you cannot get on the air to talk to them, it can be a little stressful. And then, having to start a show again and not having anybody there when you start it, and nobody knows you're back on the air, and then you're trying to get on the air by the new time. It just is really intense. So anyway, we're here now. I'm here on the air. I've got everything set up. I'm ready to take callers. I'm ready to talk to you about astrology. So let's get into it. Okay, so here in Orlando, I should back up. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida. And I usually start out the show with the weather. And the weather is quite beautiful today. Today's May Day. So it's the 1st of May. It's a lovely day. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in France today, they give out lilies of the valley, or you can buy lilies of the valley bouquets along the street. And it's the only day of the year that everyone is allowed to sell these flowers, and and without a license, I believe it is. So anyway, it's a beautiful day, and I'm sure it's really gorgeous in Paris as well today. But we've got clouds, fluffy clouds, but some sun. And let's see, it is, oh, my computer had to be rebooted for this whole thing. So it's not up to speed just yet. Here it is, 78 degrees here in Orlando, on the way up to 82, sunny and quite lovely. So we've got a Cancer rising at the moment. We have the North Node in Leo at 10 degrees in the first house. We have a 10-degree South Node in the seventh house, and we've got Jupiter at 19 Scorpio retrograde, opposing an 11-degree Taurus Sun. We have Moon at 0 degrees Sagittarius, which is why we're allowed to do this. And of course, the Moon is in conjunct to Uranus at 29 degrees in Aries. We have Saturn at 8 degrees Capricorn retrograde, Pluto at 21 degrees Capricorn retrograde, and Mars at 23 Capricorn direct. We have Neptune at 15 Pisces, and we have Mercury at 14 Aries. And let's see, and Venus at 8 degrees Gemini, opposing the sun, or the moon, excuse me, now in Sagittarius, which I said. So you can kind of tell I'm a little flustered, can't you? I apologize. But anyway, so let's talk about what's going on in the sky. So like I said, the moon just went into Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is the sign of travel. It's the sign of excitement, adventure, irreverence, fun, and sports. So there should be some interesting things going on with sports today, especially with Uranus at 29 in conjunct. It means that we're going to be having aggression and assertion. And, I know that they've been doing a lot of football picks for teams. I don't know if that's over yet or not, but if not, today will be an interesting day for who gets picked on the team. Uranus at 29 may mean that whoever's picked today on a team may not necessarily, or even, again, I apologize, I don't know much about sports, but, in the realm of getting picked, it means that whatever our mindset is and whatever we assert to do is pretty much already done. It's kind of a done deal. So especially if they were picked in the morning today, just as an example. So just assume that they're still picking team players, which they may or may not be doing. Getting picked before 11:20 today, when the moon went into Sagittarius, means that there's a very strong likelihood that it won't happen, because the end degree of moon means it's void of course, and especially with Uranus in Aries, which rules men and masculine energy, so can also mean masculine activities such as sports, it may not culminate in anything because there's no more energy to exert in that realm. It's at the very end degrees. Now, that being said, the moon was in some type of aspect just before it went into a new sign, and that aspect was an inconjunct to the moon, or to Uranus. So it means that there was something going on, but it is, again, the end degrees, and it means that there's something unusual that will happen, because Uranus rules the unusual, rules the unexpected, and multiple situations. So it can very well mean that it wasn't a good pick, or they will change their minds, or something that we didn't expect will change the circumstances of the event. So, and also, I don't know if you're listening on iTunes and it's live, or however you're listening. If you want to call in, the number's 347-994-3365. I don't often give that out because usually I have callers, but if you do want to call in, we've got an open board because of our little debacle earlier in the morning. So anyway, going around, we have, again, moon in Sagittarius, which means 2.5 days now of really focusing on sports and masculine energy and travel, education. It could be the initiating of selling a home with moon in Sagittarius. This next 2.5 days would seem to indicate that that would be a good thing. But again, unless it's probably tomorrow when the moon is actually closer to a trine to Uranus, it's probably not going to be a real good time. And the first 8 degrees of the sign is going to be an aspect to Uranus. Now, if you go by electional astrology, which is a choice in what time you are creating an event, is called electional because you elect to start the event at that time. You can elect to have it after the planet or the light, which is the moon, is out of that aspect. In an horary chart, when we look at whether or not something will happen, we use the moon as an indicator of whether or not that event will take place. And in that type of astrology, once the moon's past the exact inconjunct, it won't affect the chart. So it basically creates a null and void aspect because it's no longer an applying aspect. So I hope that didn't confuse you too much, but those of you who are a little bit better versed in astrology might enjoy understanding a little bit of that. So anyway, Saturn at 8 degrees Capricorn and Pluto at 21 and now Mars at 23. So Saturn is still retrograde, Pluto is still retrograde, and both of these planets have been really kind of loud, I think, in the universe this week. We've just seen a lot of different things going on. Here's an example of Pluto in Capricorn. I live down a street that had a very large pile of rubbish on the side of the road, and it would jut out a little bit into the lane of traffic, and it was right where it was a T in the road. So I came to the stop sign, and to my left where I had to turn was this pile of rubbish, and it was part of clearing the lot for a house to be built. So a lot of it was underbrush, and there were some palm leaves hanging out into the road. So every time I turned the corner, I'd have to kind of go over into the oncoming lane to get around it. And it was kind of frustrating because we have yard waste that is supposed to be picked up every Wednesday. And it's been there for a month, and the yard waste truck does not pick it up. So there are probably reasons for that, and it wasn't picked up. But this weekend on Sunday, I came around the corner, and it was basically a pile of ashes. Somebody had gotten tired of it being there or not being picked up and basically burned it to the ground. So this pile was about 4 feet high. It was chest high. Now, it was just a pile of ashes. So that's probably part of living in the country, but it's also part of the Pluto energy, which is if I can't remedy the situation in the normal route, I will just trash it and burn it to the ground. And that is the fire Scorpio rising from the ashes energy. Scorpio, or Pluto rules Scorpio. So it's the rising from the ashes. And so now the only thing rising from the ashes is the shell of a big TV. But anyway, so we've got that energy, and it is really that energy of frustration, and we probably felt it a little bit more last week when the Mars was coming up on Pluto, and towards the end of last week on Friday it was conjunct, and that was the peak of frustration where I need to make something happen, and Pluto wants it to change, but it wasn't happening. Capricorn, frustration around restriction. Once Mars moved past Pluto, it got done. It's like, I'm not listening to the restriction anymore, and I'm just taking a new tack, and we're going to get it done. So the other thing about what's going on with Capricorn is that energy is changing and shifting, but because of Pluto retrograde and Saturn retrograde, we are feeling the old energy from the past. And I cannot even tell you, one, how many people I know have gone to dental appointments in the last week. Two, how many people are feeling it physically in their body or with illness, with colds, with knee pain, with foot pain, leg pain, joint pain. I've had a flare-up again of knuckle pain, and I have a tooth that bothers me when Pluto's retrograde, and it's just so much skeletal and physical body stuff coming in with this energy. We also have Uranus moving into Taurus, Sun in Taurus right now, and those are earth signs. So, of course, we're going to have the earth energy affecting us. And how does the earth energy affect us? It makes our physical bodies kind of hurt. We get aches and pains, we get illnesses. The universe says, well, this energy has been around, and when the planets move into the material signs like Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn, we feel it in our bodies. And if we feel these pains and energies in our bodies, the earth is feeling it. And so that means also earth signs are changing the physicality of the earth. I talk about Dutch Sense, the YouTuber who follows geology and the earthquakes, a little bit of volcanism, the volcanoes, and apparently up in Yosemite too, the geysers have been going off and going higher and more unexpected than normal. So there are some really strong changes happening in the earth and the earth's crust lately. Just as a little aside, I've seen the transference of energy across the plates in the Pacific are coming out all around, from Alaska all down the west coast, around down to South America. And it's really fascinating the way he shows this, and he shows the globe like on Google Earth, I think it is. And you see all these earthquakes coming out in succession around, one after the other, and they transfer all the way around the plate boundaries, and it's really fascinating. And if you get a chance, check that out. Again, it's Dutch Sense, DUTCHSINSE. And so we are seeing that. And what happens in our own lives is we see a shift around how we think about things, how we believe things, and also fear. Because Capricorn, it's about responsibility, it's about structure, it's about organization, and it's about our security. And if we're not secure, if we don't feel secure, then we can feel fear. And the fear comes out very strongly with Pluto, because Pluto is our psychology. Pluto wants to get deep into our minds and find out what it is that we're really afraid of. And that can also translate right now into the media. I'm just trying to find here. Let me just type in one of the sites I go to for some news, because I notice that a lot of the news stories can be fear-based. And honestly, when that happens, I've noticed I've stopped clicking on all the headlines a lot more, because I'm kind of a news junkie. I really do like to know what's going on with the news every day, because it makes me feel connected to society and the things that are going on. Here's an example: Border Patrol violence. So what is that? That's Aries. That's Uranus. It's Mercury in Aries. It's about asserting ourselves. It can be Uranus squaring Mars right now. We've got Mars moving into 6 degrees of orb with a square to Uranus. So we're seeing this aggressive behavior. Again, Mars rules Aries. Uranus is in Aries. Mars is in the sign of Capricorn. They're at odds with each other. It's at odds with structure and government. Mars is now acting on behalf of the government, acting on behalf of the police force. And then we have Uranus and Mercury in Aries. So Mercury in Aries is about thinking that the solution to the problem is through taking action. It is asserting oneself. So we see that in our own lives. And where are we asserting ourselves in our world? It's about self-promotion and thinking about getting who we are out into the public eye. Uranus at 29 degrees Aries is about wrapping up the story. And again, we're going to feel this energy at the end of the year. It's going to be there from November until February. We have a retrograde in somewhere around October, I believe. But because Uranus goes into Taurus in May, in 2 weeks, May 15th, when he gets farther into Taurus and retrogrades, he has to go back over all those degrees that he was in. So by the time he gets back to Aries, it's going to be November. So in November through February of next year, Uranus will be in Aries again, and will be in these last 2 degrees of Aries. So while Uranus is there now, we have some stories that we're dealing with. It's a culmination of the energy of Aries and a culmination of Uranus's influence in Aries. So what is Uranus's influence? Uranus is about change. It's about not being told what to do. So it absolutely is this strong, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to act out. I'm going to do what I want to do. And now that Mars is also without anyone to tell it what to do, it's past Pluto, it's past Saturn in the sign it's in. And so now it's kind of flying free, going, I've got 2 energies here and nobody's going to stop me. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. So the energy is the energy of Aries. It's Mars, it's Uranus in Aries. So we're really seeing this escalation of energy around violence, around the police, around emergencies, around cops. So it can be emergency workers, people who help, in ambulances and EMTs. But it is a heightening of that mentality, a contrast, a fraught with fear and energy and frenetic needing to express it, because Uranus is neurological, it's nervous system and electrical energy. So it can be blowing out of electrical systems. It can be blackouts, computers not working. Bless that mine is for the moment. It is a very my computer can be really touchy because I had to get it during a Mercury retrograde. It was just the way it worked out, of course. So, if you've got a computer that's acting up, it's probably the Uranus square Mars energy. And we've also got Mercury in Aries. So, of course, in the next few weeks, we're going to have Mercury join up with Uranus as he transits through the signs. But the other half of the show, the other half of the discussion part of the show was that we are going to talk about, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get my chat room open. That seems to help let people know that I'm here and I'm actually talking. But Mercury is going to be joining up, and hopefully Mercury won't hurt my show while I'm trying to talk about him. But he is actually kind of making it more difficult for me to talk. And I know I'm monologuing, which makes it kind of like one continuous sentence. I apologize in archive for you who have listened to this and are hearing me just kind of blather on, because, it's just the nature of what's going on right now with the planets. But it can congest you. And Uranus rules weather. So definitely I think the next 3 weeks are going to be kind of a wild few weeks of weather, having Uranus at latter degrees. We're going to be seeing more fire energy, really strong inclination towards wildfires, because Mars in an earth sign, which means the materiality of the earth, the flora and fauna, and Uranus is unexpected, but it's in a fire sign, which means that we're going to see electrical strikes starting fires. We're going to see possible blowouts of transformers, and they could start fires. We can see earth influences like volcanoes or bursts through of lava coming up and initiating things like that. So definitely until Uranus gets into an earth sign, we're going to see that. Now, once Uranus gets into the earth sign, it's going to affect us in weather and cold earth. So I would not be surprised if we have an extra long spring this year, having chilly weather, more cooler weather. And of course, I live in Florida, so I'm going to welcome it. But definitely people who are farther north, I already know that they've been having an excessive spring with all of the weather going through with snowstorms, blizzards. I know somebody who was in Minneapolis last week and is moving there, and it was a blizzard. And this week it's 77. So that's Uranus. It's chaotic. It's unexpected. It's, upheaval is a good word to describe it. Also, I was getting into the news stories here. You've got racial profiling and things like that going on in Toronto. According to the news here, customers were charged in advance if they were black in Toronto. Again, Aries, Uranus. Uranus is humanitarianism. It's people who are saying, I'm not going to follow the rules. Mars is after Saturn. It's like, you can't stop me from doing what I want to do. Ashley Judd is suing Harvey Weinstein, sexual harassment. Mars rules sex, masculine energy. We have Moon in Sagittarius today. That's the story on a Moon in Sagittarius day. And also late degree Scorpio, which of course Scorpio is also one of the rulers of sex and probably the darker side of sex. And so let's see what else we have. Music. Never felt more like singing the blues. Gibson guitar firm files for bankruptcy. So end of an era, end of a story around music. Let's see what else. More Stormy Daniels stuff. Hurricane Maria information coming up here. Weather, energy, inclement from last year. Uranus, Mars squaring it. Violence in Canada, it's very pervasive, et cetera, et cetera. Very ugly. I don't want to go over that anymore because it is very ugly stuff. But yeah, we've got some intense stuff going on. Let's see what else we have with Mercury. Mercury, I've got it highlighted in my book here. Oh, and today also Venus is in conjunct to Saturn today as well. So Venus is in the sign of Mercury, which is Gemini, and she's in conjunct to Saturn. Again, authority retrograde. This is the time when the whole Me Too movement is going to run into some roadblocks or some pushback. In conjunct means that authority isn't necessarily listening. The Gemini energy means that the other side of the story is going to be told, and there's going to be the in conjunct again to Saturn and Capricorn is going to be that the authority is not as cooperative right now, that people are not being listened to, or that there are two sides to the story that will be brought out. And at the same time, Venus is opposing Moon in Sagittarius. So the side where we want to nurture, or naturally the side of nurturing the mom, is in Sagittarius, which means that she's less inclined to nurturing and more inclined to just getting it done, keeping it light, and not really worrying too much about the details. So and Venus in Gemini is about telling the story, talk, wanting to get it out there, wanting to communicate. So it's really not a time of being heard or listened to with the opposition to the Moon and the in conjunct to Saturn. It's more about people going on about their own business and not really wanting to be bothered. So when Venus gets more into Cancer, we're going to come back into that water energy. We're going to come back into the feminine. And this time, right now, Moon in a male sign and Venus in a male sign. It's more about the male side of the story and what men are going to say to push back, because that's the in conjunct, that's the opposition. It's like, nope, you can't say that to us. We're not going to listen, and we're going to deny, or we're going to push back, basically. So we've got that today. I highlighted this. This is why I'm going over it, because I've highlighted it. And quite honestly, nobody seems to be getting the message that I am on air right now. So we're not seeing any callers. And I'm going to take a break here as soon as I'm done chatting. And I apologize for those who may have wanted to call in, who already called in and didn't know that we were on the air and could call back. We're going to be, probably wrapping up at the other side of the break if nobody calls in. And I'm going to do my best to give you the update here for the rest of the show. And then if nobody calls in during the break, we're going to probably wrap it up and have a short show this week. And I apologize to those of you who wanted to call in and get a reading. But we've got Mercury in conjunct to Jupiter Saturday, which is Cinco de Mayo. And that means that we're going to be seeing some information around stories and education. And I would say, okay, just from the pure symbology of it, Mercury is communication. Mercury is thought processes. In Aries, it's assertive action or aggressive action, and potentially even violent action. Indicated in conjunct is an uncomfortable position with Jupiter, which is education and spirituality, and in Scorpio. So this is something where trust from a teacher or an authority figure in, say, a religious organization has been compromised, and we may be hearing about somebody who abused their authority in religion or churches. And Jupiter is travel. Mercury is short distance travel. So in conjunct that day, it's not a good day to travel Saturday. I'd just be very cautious if you have trips that you're planning, that it's just right around 7:05 a.m. So, of course, after that time, Mercury pulls away from that in conjunct. So that's Eastern time, and that means that it's going to be 9 a.m. Let me see. No, I take it back. 4 a.m. in Pacific. So probably that's more affecting early morning airline travel in the Eastern time zone, or actually anywhere in America, but over in Europe, it's going to be a little bit later in the morning. And then we've got Mercury squaring Pluto on Monday the 7th, and also Venus squaring Neptune that same day. So we're going to have some difficulty around, again, probably more of this same energy with issues around race, issues around authority, issues around unions. I know that there are some more union issues going on right now. I've heard in my world that there are some issues with teachers in education and classes being bigger, teachers being let go. In Florida, they have it's kind of a war on public education going on right now. And so, we're seeing that, especially Jupiter retrograde in Scorpio. Jupiter is the ruler of higher education, and then Mercury is the ruler of lower education. So we're seeing a lot of action and a lot of deep issues surrounding that, thought processes around what's going to happen with education. Are we going to go to vouchers? Are we going to have public school? What's happening? And I can tell you personally, I'm really happy my daughter graduates in a year, because it's getting into a place that I am going to be very passionate about, and I'm not going to be able to stay out of it. And I really don't want to get into that negativity. So looking towards higher education, but even that, I'm sure is going to be affected. We've got Jupiter moving into Sagittarius at the end of the year, so I have positive outlooks for that. The Jupiter in its own sign ruling higher education means it's going to be a little bit more fortune coming our way at the end of the year. That I'm talking like December, like the last 2 weeks of December. So anyway, I'm going to take a quick break here. We do have a caller, so if you would like to call in, the number is 347-994-3365, and I will take your calls after the break. And we're going to take a little quick break and be right back. In these days of stress, running around, responsibilities, we all need a little place to go to make it all better. Is that place sports, football, or maybe you like to garden, paint, or just listen to music? Wherever your happy place is, you can find a shirt or mug to reflect that happy place. At myhappyplace.rocks, we have a variety of lifestyle products, including iPhone cases, pajamas, and pet items, all with beautiful, colorful designs, which help us go to our happy place. Stop by on the web for great gift ideas for others and yourself. myhappyplace.rocks. Lenny Pickett appears courtesy of Random Act Records. Check them out at randomactrecords.com. Hi, and welcome back. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida. If you are interested in getting a reading privately with me, please do look at my website, astrologerangel.com, and you can get me there. Also, if you want to look at more of my artwork, you can get me at shelleyoverton.com. I have a whole page down at the bottom. If you scroll down past the blogs and the information, you can see more of my artwork, and I have more products there that you might want to look at. Anyway, let's go to the phone line. We have a caller at 617. Hi, 617. How are you?
Hello. Hello.
Hello. You're on.
Hi, how
How are
are you?
you? Good. Who is this?
No, I had you on mute, so that's
Oh,
kind of
no.
like a little delay when you hear your number come up and you're
Oh.
like, oh, wait a minute.
It's all good. I mean, I'm having to roll with the punches today myself. It's been quite a morning trying to get on the air, but we're here now. So,
But it's funny, a
what's
lot of
your
people
name?
have been having problems with getting
Have
on
they?
the platform for a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been kind of skittish, and I've also seen issues with Pinterest. I've been having those for almost a month now, trying to get on there, and it won't take my password. And then when I try to go back in and type it in, it creates a new account. And I had 5 new accounts on Pinterest just trying to log into my regular account. So things are, you know, it's
Well, I think
it's
the
that
energy is
time.
getting too strong.
It's yeah, the next 2 weeks should be interesting because it's the last degrees of Uranus and Aries, and that's kind of when the aggressive nature around the internet comes out. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see a lot of hacking issues and stories coming up. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely time to protect. And like I said at the beginning of the show, my computer was going schizo, and it was opening applications I didn't even have open, and I'm like, what? And it was starting to blink and do weird things. Oh my goodness. So
Oh, no.
yeah. Well, what's your name, real quick?
My name is Sheba.
Hi, Sheba. Good to know you're here.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. What's your birth information? I can do a reading for you. Start with your
What
where
do
you
you?
were born. It helps to start there.
I was born. I was born in the Republic of Panama.
Oh my. Okay. Is there a town? Is it just like Panama
Colón.
City?
Colón.
Not Panama City. Okay, great. Gne. I think it's Cologene.
Oh no, it's Colon. Like Christopher
Colon.
Columbus, but in Spanish it's
Oh,
yeah,
Cologne
but in Spanish
with the
it's
accent.
Colón. Yeah.
Gotcha. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if my
Uh huh.
computer even. Oh, it even gave it the accents. I'm so excited. So, okay. Um, what's your birth date and time if you've got it, and then we'll look at your chart.
7/7/73, and I
Okay.
honestly believe I took a look at my birth record a long time ago. I think it's like 9:45 p.m.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Yay, we can do that. So, what can I do for you today?
Um, just I'm on this love journey of
Aw.
self-love.
Oh, good. That's the best kind. It's definitely the hardest
and
to
self
get.
oh, it's so tough.
Yeah.
And just
My
being
goodness.
very self-aware of my, just trying to become more of a whole loving being. And
Yeah.
so this is my path right now, and sometimes it's a little murky and sometimes it's clear.
Yes.
So whatever
Yeah. The
insight you
planets
can
have
share
worked
with
with you.
me would be wonderful.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Okay. So first off, interestingly, you have a Pisces rising, and so Pisces
I
is the
always
sign of
felt like I had this
intuition.
double water situation going
Do
on.
you? Do you have really big eyes, like doe eyes? That's kind of a hallmark of a Pisces rising. Have like really big kind of bedroom eyes.
They're not really big, but people always say that I have a certain presence in my eyes.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool. Well, that's kind of a thing because Pisces can kind of look through your soul as well. They're really the energy is the sign of universal love, and you have Neptune in the first house, which is the self. So that can make you a bit dreamy at times when it's going direct, which it is right now. And when it goes retrograde, then it actually makes you a little bit clearer and you're able to see yourself a little more clearly. And it goes
Mhm.
retrograde on the 18th of June this year. So probably a good part of the second half of the year is the half of the year where you're kind of much more clear-minded about who you are and what it is you want and not as dreamy.
Mhm.
But the first half of the year, you can create, this is what you can do with this energy is the first half you have the visualization time. So you're going, okay, I know that half the year, and I've got chills telling you this. So I know this is a really good thing to tell you today. You're going to be like visualizing what kind of life you want and who you want yourself to be and how you want
Yes.
to interact with the world in the next half of the year. The second half, when Neptune goes retrograde, it helps you go back over what you come to the conclusion of in your in your imaginary life, in your visualization life, and it'll give you clarity as to how you can do that and what you haven't been seeing that might have been holding you back. So interesting with a Pisces rising, the sign of Pisces in the zodiac rules the 12th house, which is the house of the hidden. So when usually it's the sign where you don't necessarily see yourself, but when it's in the first house, you see yourself much more clearly, but you can also absorb what other people are like, and when you're around them you take on those attributes, and so you can have a lot of friends because you kind of are always can have things in common with the people you're around because you tend to morph
I'm very
into,
mutable.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so you've got that going on, and that's a very long transit. I mean, you're not going to be out of that probably until 2030, because Neptune not only stays in there in Pisces, but then also goes into the first 5 degrees of Aries. So it's a very long transit. And so look for the next 12 years of having it there. It's going to be a whole learning period for you on how to truly immerse yourself in that Neptunian energy. And don't be hard on yourself if you are quote unquote sensitive, because people always say, "Oh, you're so sensitive," but you are. And guess what? Say, yes, I am. I am sensitive, and I own it. And maybe you're insensitive, so you've got enough for yourself and everyone else. But the good thing is you have Mars and Aries.
I think that's a beautiful part of myself, the sensitivity.
I do too.
Because I think it makes me empathetic to other people.
Exactly.
But
and
people
not only
have a problem with it for some reason.
They do, and part of the reason in America, part of the reason they have is because we're a very Virgo kind of country. I know Virgo and Cancer. I mean, I look at it as Virgo because we're a workaholic country, and that's Virgo. But Cancer is also the ruler because we're a Cancer country, which you are as well. So you're very connected to this country, having your birthday only 3 days after Independence Day. So the Capricorn energy, the Cancer energy of the country is about security, and it makes us want, the structure is to work and get paid, and security comes from getting paid. So Cancer can also have some of those worker attributes because the dynamic with needing security, but also being the opposite of Capricorn, which is about structure and the hierarchy of the workplace, it makes that whole dynamic very, very much about doing something towards your own security. So as a country, where we put the value on the tangible, the work, the having the money, and Pisces puts the emphasis on intrinsic value. Like, are you really valuable in a spiritual sense? So the beauty of Pisces is they see someone's true soul and true spirit, and they always see the good. Yeah. They're very much like the angels of the zodiac because they always look for the positive in the person. And, that's typical when people are in the workaday world and they don't want to get deep because, quite honestly, our hierarchy and the structure of corporate America doesn't really take that side of you into account. It's very cutthroat. I'm overlaying some of my personal views.
Yeah, because everything is ego-based. Yeah.
It is ego-based, and it's material-based. So they don't like to see the sensitive. Yeah, so that's, I think, just the nature of our country, and I think that we will be changing. I think definitely Pluto and Capricorn has been challenging a lot of our ideology around that thinking, and I think Pluto going into Aquarius might exacerbate it a little bit, only because Aquarius is very mental, very intellectual or analytical it's like academic intellectual, so it wants linear. I take it back. It doesn't want linear. What it wants to do is understand things in an analytical sense, okay?
Yes, everything has to be black and white for them.
Well, definitely they have to understand things. So
I'm married to an Aquarius, so I know.
Oh, well, you have Aquarius in your 12th house, which is the subconscious, and you also have Jupiter in Aquarius. So Jupiter in Aquarius in the 12th means you can be a little bit more breezy and easy about that intuition that you have, and you don't always take it so much serious and to heart because Jupiter likes to keep things light. So what you get, though, is you can key in to that intellectual side, and you also have the intuitive side. So what you get is you get the electrical energy. So you are really good with computers or knowing what's going on. How do I explain this? Aquarius gets its energy from energy. It's electrical, it's neurological based, so it's more anxiety and nervousness. So you may pick up people's energy in an electrical sense, and when you're anxious, then that's when you're actually keyed in psychically, because you're more of like a mind reader on some level.
And I thought that being anxious was a negative thing for me.
Everybody thinks of anxiety as negative, and that's why, as an astrologer, I really want to spread the word that there are a third of the signs that pick up their energy psychically through electrical means or synapses.
Because I feel like when I'm anxious, I feel like I am a little more clearer, and I start trying to process things, and it just goes really fast.
Yeah. So that is actually your superpower in your chart, okay? And having Jupiter in Aquarius in the 12th means you are extremely fast picking things up from, like, you learn really quickly. Do you know that? Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
You learn really quickly.
Yes.
And
you just have
like
to show me something once, and it's like, and it's like automatic.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, Pisces tends to have, I want to say photographic mind, but of course the Big Bang Theory blew that out of it, and I can't remember. It's got another name, but it's basically when you look at things and you see it as a picture in your mind, and so you photograph. Like, you can be a very visual learner, and if you see it, boom, it's like instantaneous, and then you put it in your database and you understand it because you can be spatial. So you have a really good mind for concepts and spatial awareness, and so it's like you integrate not only like I wish I could express what I'm trying to get at here. It's like it's all the machinations and the parts coming together, but you see it as a whole almost instantaneously. So it's like you absorb it as a done deal, and then you pick it apart later. Because the combination of Aquarius and Pisces sees things as a whole picture photographically, where Aquarius sees things in the parts, and it sees it as a whole as well, but it gets all the little details. So when you put the two together, it's like, boom, you get it. And
so the macro and the micro together.
Exactly. It's like a perfect integration of information there. Yeah. And so, and then you've got Uranus, the planet that rules Aquarius in Libra, in the house of commitment, and it's right next to Moon. And so that can also bring a little bit of anxiety around relationships, but especially around money, because it's in the house of joint finances. So, interesting thing, though, you have Pluto, which rules joint finances and the 8th house. It's just about to go into your 8th house, but it's in Libra. And so you want to look at the deeper psychology around what makes a partner tick, and what is normally it would be the emotional psychology, but for you it's in an air sign, and you have a really strong air energy in your chart. You actually kind of have somewhat of a balance in your chart in all elements, but there are places where the air energy is more pronounced and where the fire energy is pronounced, and I can real quick give you that idea, unless you may already know that, but
I don't.
Your sense of self and the subconscious is that air energy, which is always electrical. It's conceptual and ideas and thinking. It's also in the house of joint finances and commitment, and it's a little bit of your house of partners, marriage and partnership. And then you have Saturn and Gemini, which is also an air sign. So for you, I'm trying to see if you have any trines. You have a trine by houses, but you don't necessarily have a trine by planet. So you've got planets in all 3 air signs. And so that kind of balances you out with some of that energy, especially that you have Saturn at late degree Gemini. So for you, you're kind of at the end of a story around having multiple houses and multiple families. That's part of the reason you came into this life, is that, I don't know how it's playing out, but Gemini is more than one, and it can be 2. Duplicity, it's the twins. But Saturn is life purpose, and it's in your house and home and family. So it means that you have more than one family in your life. And it's also
I do.
understanding and having the commitment to that, but also you create that structure and you're responsible for it. So being at the end degrees means it's an old story for you, and you wanted to come in
Mhm.
to wrap up the karma around having multiple families. So it's like really your aim is to not have to do this again. And so you came in to
Mhm.
really express that in your life
Clear it
and
all up.
be done with
Yes.
it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And then
And I
you
have this strong feeling that, especially this year, it has really hit
uh
me hard. Like, okay, you don't want
yeah,
to do this again. You really don't
right.
want to do this again. So clear it up and get it together.
Yeah, and it is that way. I'm just trying to see here. You got about 10 years, and then when Uranus gets into Gemini, there's going to be probably an awakening and awareness. And really, Uranus is about being free and having freedom. It's also about
Mhm.
multiples. So what's happening when Uranus goes into your house of home and family in Gemini, again, about 10 years away, you're just going to be like finding ways to express your need for freedom. Okay. And at that
Mhm.
time, probably also like you may want to get an internet business going or some type of entrepreneurial endeavor that gives you freedom
Mhm.
within that environment. So because it's going to probably exacerbate the fact that there are multiple things going on, you're going to want to focus because that's part of the issue with Uranus is that it rules the generation around the millennium because it was in its own sign at that time. So all the children born around 2000, 2001, 1990, like 98 through 2006 maybe or 2007, those are all the kids with Uranus and Aquarius, and so they're the ones that are really hyper aware and hyper focused on the internet. And what the internet does is it focuses that energy so that they're not scattered, they're not ADD as much. And I use ADD as a means because everybody knows what that means, but it really for me
Mhm.
is just another way to say Uranus in Aquarius because it's that astrological energy. So,
Mm.
society needs to label it psychologically. If you label it psychologically, it's seen as ADD or ADHD. If you've got more planets in Earth or fire sign. If you have air and fire, you get more ADHD. If you have more Earth and air, it's like more ADD. So that Uranus energy going into your house of home and family in about 10 years is going to really make you need to focus on your own like expression, and it could take the form of your own business. Right now, I mean, let's honestly say it like it is. Uranus going into Aries, then Taurus, then Gemini. It really is reawakening people to wanting to work for themselves, and I do see that as a natural shift in our society as a whole. So
Mhm.
for you, you're going to be able to bring it back into the home, and by the time Uranus hits your Saturn, it will be like the final culmination. It'll be kind of like the Big Bang for you of like freedom. I need it. So,
Yes.
yeah, I don't know how old the kids are, but you may have if they're fairly young, you're going to have that leaving the home around then in about 10 years, obviously, and that'll give you more
Well,
freedom to do what
I
you want.
wish.
Yeah.
No, she's only gonna be 2 years old on Monday.
Oh, little sweetie. Okay, so then when Uranus hits
And I
your
have two
Saturn,
older
probably
children as
that.
well. I have two older
Okay.
children as well. So. Mhm.
Okay, so you've got kind of a combination going on in your chart anyway, but
Yeah, I have
you'll
one
have.
that's gone, that's 24, and I have one that's 18
Uh-huh.
that's getting ready to leave next month.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah, Gemini is
For
there. Is it a
school.
girl? Is it a girl leaving next month?
No,
Or your
yeah, it's a
little one's
girl.
a girl?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you have two
I have
girls
two girls
and
and a boy.
a boy.
Mhm.
Okay, so the girl is coming into. There's a girl into your house, home, and family. So that's probably the little one. And Venus and Gemini is there right now. So for the next month, she's going to really want to be the center of your world. And Venus and Gemini likes attention. I mean, I know we think of Leo as the attention getter, which you have. You have Venus and Leo, and you also have Mercury and Leo. But and that's the
Mhm.
fire energy in your chart along with Mars and Aries. And you have Neptune and Sag. So that's the fire. And let's see, you don't really have much Earth. I take it back. I thought you had some Earth. You only have the North Node in Capricorn. That's the only Earth you have. All the rest is fire, air, and water. So that means
Mhm.
that you really are learning about grounding right now with Saturn and Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn, and Mars and Capricorn. So where that falls for you, the Earth energy in your chart is into your house of communication. So you may feel like
Mhm.
you need to start doing something with that. Definitely Gemini, Venus and Gemini is wrapping up the need to communicate to some extent, like the desire. You may not have as much of a desire for like writing or doing some form of expression, but the sun
I've
is
been
coming in
journaling
there.
lately.
Good. Yeah, like doing bullet journals and things like that.
Just writing down my feelings, my gratitude, my affirmations, things like that.
Uh-huh. Cool. Yeah. So that'll be really helpful. Like when you have planets transit your third house, it's always like, okay, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? What are you going to write down? How are you going to communicate? Are you going to teach somebody something? So those are the issues that are kind of triggered along with short distance travel or transportation. So Sun is in Taurus, just into
Yes,
your house of
I've been
house
having this
too.
strong need to want to teach what I'm learning.
Okay. Okay, great. So the Venus wrapping up that time means the desire was there towards a female or a child. Like it could be a child of yours, it could be a neighbor, it could be a sibling, but there was
Mhm.
definitely the connection to a female and what you were
Yes.
teaching or talking about. And now you've got Sun in Taurus that will, in what is it, 21 days, go into Gemini also and be in that same house and wrap up that story with the ego. And this is about your sense of self. So before it was more how does it relate to a female, to a child, to a neighbor, to someone female in your life. And now it's going to relate to you. So now it's about like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm doing this because I really need to get my thoughts and emotions out, and I need to put something down on paper for myself. So now it's not as much about someone else or a desire as much as sense of self and ego. Um,
Mhm.
let's see what else. Oh, and then so I've got only a couple minutes, and you were my only caller, so you got an extra
Oh
special
wow,
long
got
reading
lucky.
today. Yeah, so if people are listening to this podcast and archive, that's why, because you were my one star shining caller who gave me
Woo! I am the
a
one who
chance
got the
to read.
gold star today.
Yeah, you were really super lucky. And yeah, you got it. But we've got Jupiter up in your house of higher education, so you may also be thinking, that might be the teaching aspect as well. And right now it's retrograde. So there's some issues coming back in about freedom to be able to do that. And they're deep psychological things. It's, again, about your sense of value and sense of self. So are you feeling like you're worthy of it? And this is the trigger right now, the Jupiter retrograde, about like, what is my worthiness? Do I have the money? Do I have the joint finances to do it? Is it going to cause any issues with other people? Those are the deeper psychological things that are coming up around this. But when Jupiter goes
Mhm.
direct, which is in July, let me just look real quick here, and I'll tell you when it happens. It goes direct on July 9th and 10th, like right in that area. I've got to look
Right
it up
after my
directly.
birthday.
Uh-huh. Exactly. So that's going to be a really big time for you. Let me just double check here on my more detailed calendar. So, yeah, it goes direct on the 10th at 1:02 p.m. Eastern. So, anyway, so you're going to feel this really strong drive that no, this has to happen. This is part of my deeper need, and what I have to do is a passion. Calling me today with the moon in Sagittarius, that's also right there in the same house, and it's coming up on your natal Neptune at your midheaven. So there's something that relates to the arts, and it can also be music or travel or freedom. It's you have Neptune in Sag, which is the vagabond, and so definitely having Saturn and Gemini in your house of home and family is going to make you feel really restricted from your freedom to move about and be who you really want to be. That Neptune at the
Mhm.
midheaven, first off, I would say maybe you have some kind of talent. Are you talented with music or art? Because Neptune's always like
I have a
painting or
very
art.
strong passion for
Okay.
art. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I
And
like to
then
draw. I like to paint.
awesome. Well, what you can do for having Neptune in Sagittarius is get outside to do it. Do plein air, Plein, plein air painting. So bring your
Mhm.
watercolors outside, let the kids play around you at a park, and just paint outside because you need to be in nature. Neptune wants to be in nature in Sag. And then you have the moon
Yes.
there today. So that's also mom. And get the kids out and about. Get out, get in nature. You've got to do it for your health and mental well being. Okay. So
Yes.
Jupiter will be there at the end of the year. It also rules education. You could also do art classes in the home if you want to earn your money out of the home. You have Saturn in the house of home and family, which means you're going to earn your money from the home. That's your career is in the home. Okay?
That's what
And
I
it
keep
could be
trying to tell
right.
my husband.
Pardon me? What'd you
That's
say?
what I keep trying to tell my husband. That's what I keep trying to tell my husband.
Well, he needs to listen because I'm looking at your chart, and you definitely have Uranus in Libra, which means you want to have your own private business in joint finances, the
Yeah.
eighth house, and you want to do it for yourself. And Saturn in your home and family is about working out of the home, and then Neptune at the midheaven is education or travel or the arts, and you're going to have Jupiter there, so you could teach art out of the home if you want to. And there are a lot of homeschoolers who need to have that done. I mean, I've been thinking about doing it myself. So your chart is really well set up for you. You have Venus in Leo, which is children. You have, and that's in your house of work. Venus in Leo in the house of work. You have Mercury in Leo in the house of children. Mercury rules the third house of education. And you have Sun in Cancer, which is also in the house of children. And it is in Cancer, which is the mom. So you very much have the natural disposition. You have Mars, which is taking action in your house of money, in Aries, which is also fire energy around children. So I would encourage you to find a way to teach children out of your home, whatever it is you want to teach them. But if it's art, do that. But you get certified if you need to, but homeschoolers don't need certification to teach art.
I've been feeling this calling to work with special need children.
Wonderful. If you want to do it, find a way to do it. Jupiter going direct in July, you're going to be able to get that certification if you truly want it. So.
Oh, okay.
I would do it.
It's been, my calling has been between two different sets of people, either the elderly or children, and I've been kind of like tossing it back and forth.
Yeah. The elderly for you is Saturn in your house of money from career. So transiting Saturn, the Saturn in the sky right now, is triggering that elderly energy because all the planets going through Capricorn, they've been there since 2007. Pluto went in 2007. Saturn just went in December. Saturn's asking you to own what it is you want to do for career, and it will trigger the elderly. The North Node for you is Capricorn, so that is the elderly. In this chart today, Vesta is in Capricorn, which is also a woman who's kind of being a stickler for the rules, and so you might have that. You know, we don't know what you've got a woman kind of talking to you about a career. She's kind of being more strict with you. That energy is there, but the Capricorn is, I understand you want to do something potentially with the elderly, but that's a transient energy. So you could do it, but I don't see it as permanent. What I see more permanent in your chart is that you're here to do something with children or something around the home, and it has to do with Gemini. And Gemini can be children, but it's also communication and teachers and writing or expression of information. You could also do a blog post or blogging, podcasting, YouTube, any of the kind of technical stuff like that you could do as well. Anyway, that's what I've got for you.
I really appreciate your time and your love and your energy.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for calling and being my one-star caller today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And call in again. Okay?
You have a wonderful day. Love and light.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye. And that's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in and listening and putting up with me on this stressful day, battling technology once again. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye. Thanks for stopping by AstroEnergy this week. If you would like to get a hold of Shelley Overton, you can get her at astrologerangel.com, on Facebook at AstroEnergy or Astrologer Angel. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com with additional music by Ironwood Rain. Check them out on the net at ironwoodrain.com.
To subscribe, please click the picture of Shelley on the right or the red button below.